Welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and joining me today is District 2 Supervisor Chris Wright. Welcome, Chris.
Thanks for having me, Joel.
Glad to have you back. It's been too long. We hope to see more of you around here.
Yes. Well, I'm here every Tuesday at least.
Every Tuesday. We'll try to grab
most
you.
Tuesdays, yes.
So tell me, how long have you been in office now?
Just a little bit over a year, yeah.
So this is the first year in review, we could say.
Yes, indeed.
So how was the first year as a supervisor been?
It's great. Really, I was thinking about it, because each turn of the calendar, you think about your personal resolutions and how your year went, and of course that goes into this job especially because it's such a new role to play. And really, our whole board, the whole county leadership changed last year. You had 3 new supervisors for the first time in a long time. I don't even know if it's happened, when the last time it's happened, but it's a significant change. And then you also had no CAO when we came into office. So the first order of business was to hire a county administrator officer, the chief executive officer, essentially for the county. And so we hired an interim to lead off with Blacklock. And then in the spring, late spring, we hired Lori Norton to be our CAO, and it's just been full tilt for ever since day one. And I feel good about what I've accomplished as supervisor and what the board as a whole has done. And we just got a lot of challenges ahead of us, that's for sure. So.
Yeah, you certainly have a difficult year ahead, no doubt, and we're going to delve into that in a minute here. Before we get into some of those things, I wanted to give you a chance to introduce yourself to those who may not have had a chance to meet you yet, whether it be in the digital world or in person. So are you a native or were you a transplant here?
Well, a native, I'm not sure.
Of Calaveras County.
Not a Native American, but I did grow up in Calaveras. My family has owned property in Calaveras for over 100 years. And my brief story is kind of the highlight of my childhood is I was a part of the first graduating class of Toyon Middle School. So that's my claim to fame there, and helped develop the mascot because I was going to Moke Hill School, elementary, and then we transferred to Toyon and went from being a gopher in Moke Hill. When you're 12, 13-year-old boy, at least I thought that was really wimpy, And now I know how really powerful the gopher is. But so I wanted a tougher mascot. So I was part of the first appointed student body council for Toyon, and we came up with the Warriors, which were my favorite basketball team, and black and red. So was the colors that we came up with there. So we could be tough, and cool. So that was a long time ago now. And then eventually my mom moved over to Amador County. I ended up graduating from Amador High School. I went on, got a degree from Humboldt State University, got married, I have a couple of kids, my life on fast forward, got a degree in natural resource, it's actually a liberal arts degree with an emphasis in natural resource communication, so I took a lot of different courses, and worked as a planner in both the nonprofit sector as well as the county of Mendocino before moving back to Calaveras in 2005. And then worked as executive director for the Foothill Conservancy, a local nonprofit who works on primarily river issues, and the McCallum River, working to protect that river from more devastating dams. And then after that, ran for office and was able to pull off the victory.
Wow, that's a beautiful synopsis.
Yeah, that was quick.
One of the best I've ever heard, I think. Just jumping back real quick into,
Sure.
Let's say your college days, did you ever envision yourself being in public service, such as a supervisor?
Well, no, probably not supervisor. I've always been interested in the dynamics of our culture as far as being able to express yourself in the way you wanted to live your life the way you wanted to. Having grown up in Calaveras, my dad was very he'd like to live the life he wanted to live, without interference by the government. And so that was kind of instilled as part of my youth and as part of who I am. And so I've always been interested in that aspect of it. But I never really saw myself as becoming involved at the level that I am at now, more as more of an advocate for specific freedoms or specific causes. And so I like to consider myself in some ways, I'm very moderate, because I kind of can see both sides of the aisle, and when it comes to these issues.
What made you decide to run for supervisor?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, basically, having grown up here, and just moving back and raising my kids here, I love this place. You know yourself. It's just great, and you got the great historic towns, and the people are wonderful, and the environment, the forest, the mountains, the rivers. I mean, there's really simple. I like it the way it is. I don't want to see much change. But there are a few things we, have to improve, and that is we need, more wealth, more prosperity, more opportunity, and with that we need less crime. We need to take care of our, drug issues and our crime issues, and I think they're linked together. But at the end of the day, I really wanted to stay here. And keep it and help it become a prosperous community, but remain a rural community with its historic nature.
So you hit on a couple kind of main points that I imagine were your platform and your campaign. What were some other things that you kind of almost ran on in terms of goals for the county?
Well, for the goals for the county, is my platform is very long. It takes up pages and pages because I adopted it from my predecessor, Steve Walensky, and so and because they're great goals, and basically what you have as local government the opportunity and the challenge to address almost every single problem that anyone could imaginably think of. And so, if you look at, so I named a couple of the crime, that's one of the things that I'm really concerned about. We up in West Point, up Winton Road, off, out in the middle of Railroad Flat, in these areas, Alpha Sheep Ranch, they're very remote. And so we need enough presence, and we need enough deputies, resident deputies, that are involved in community policing, that the people feel safe and the criminals know that this place is policed. It's not a place, it's not a target. They're protected by the sheriff's department and by their community. And so I think that's has been one of my key priorities, and will remain so, is figuring out a way to get rid of those few bad apples, either put them in jail or rehabilitate them, or convince them that they should move back to wherever they came from, and and some combination of those is what it takes, and that takes unfortunately a lot of money, but it also takes a lot of work working with the sheriff's department and the neighborhoods and the communities, and that's where I'm finding is the greatest challenge, is bringing that community policing idea and really getting it on the ground. Moving forward, it's very challenging to do, but there's a lot of interest in that out there. So that's I think for me that the last year has been a lot of that, and a lot about education. One of my goals is to keep the Railroad Flat School open, because Railroad Flat is such a small town. There's the school, and then there's the post office, and then there's the store, and a little building next to it that is sometimes something. Right now there's a thrift store, so you can go buy some stuff up there. But if we got to keep that school open, there's the families, there's a lot of poor families up there. It's a historic community, but it's a really good school. Blue Ribbon School has enrichment programs in music, in sports, cooking, all these things that they do that that the district doesn't pay for, that used to be part of, what we considered as a school. But the parents and the community have stepped up to do that. So they've done all this work to keep the school open, and so I'm trying to help find more additional funds for the Railroad Flat School. I went down there. Earlier in the year, we went, the board, we voted 5-0 in support of this effort to save the Railroad Flat School. We also got a resolution from the school district, California Unified School District. And we went down, me, Zerl McDaniel, and Evan Garamendi, as well as Pam Taylor, who's the daughter of Tom Taylor, the old supervisor from Railroad Flat area. We went down to Sacramento last week and started lobbying to include Railroad Flat School in the small but necessary school funding stream. And really good success. We talked to mostly our representatives, Barry Hill, Bigelow, but also Kristen Olson, who used to represent here, and she was very supportive, and Barry Hill's office was really supportive, and Bigelow was like, yeah, we're supportive, but if you can get those guys to move it forward, we'll co-author it. So so we're very hopeful that we're going to get some more additional money for it to keep that school going for a few more years.
And it's really not on the chopping block this year per se.
Right.
However, it's been on the chopping
Yes.
block a number of times, and it very easily could be again. So.
That's the fear, yeah.
Okay.
And so if you do get that funding, and then for 5 years or so, at least that will give us a little bit more time to hopefully continue to build the enrichment program in the school, maybe add a teacher with that funding, and then once you get back up to over like around 100 students or so, and you can stay there, then it's self-supporting to a certain degree. So that's what our goal is to get back over the 100 mark where it was back in 2007, 2008.
And what's the number now?
It's about 60.
60. Okay.
Yeah. So it was as low as 52. So they've added some more, and the folks up there do such a great job, and I'm just doing my little part really here. They should be commended for the work they've done up there.
Could you kind of describe the geography of District 2 and
Sure.
let people know where it is?
If possible, you could put a map up on the computer
yeah, we're not
screen.
quite there yet, Chris.
Yeah.
I wish we could do that for
Okay.
you.
No. I mean, when you play this, I don't know if.
Oh, well, perhaps.
Okay.
Yeah, perhaps.
Okay. Because it really, it's a huge, geographically, it's the largest district. It goes all the way past Sheep Ranch, Mineral Mountain subdivision out there, all the way, it includes Calvaritas, includes Mountain Ranch, it loops around San Andreas, goes out 49, Golden Hills subdivision is part of it. You go down to Paloma, up to Moke Hill, Glencoe, Railroad Flat, Wilseyville, West Point, Mountain Ranch, of course. That whole area there is District 2. So it's great. It's all these little tiny communities, and they're all doing wonderful things, and it makes it really cool to represent, but very hard to try to get to all the events. They hold fundraisers, I swear, every night in one of these towns. So it's quite challenging to get there to everything that's happening.
What would you say are some challenges unique to your district?
I would say that I'm not sure if they're completely unique because the county as a whole is a rural county, but my county, my district especially, is almost all rural. And so, with that, you have the fire hazard is the greatest throughout my district because of the forest and the where in the past the subdivisions have been approved. So you have, you go out a road and there's only one entrance to, 25, 50 houses, and they're surrounded by, overgrown forest. And so fire is a huge problem. Roads, because of the geographic nature, there's so many miles of roads in District 2. That's always a huge problem. And then the remoteness in the sense of transportation and for policing too. That makes it more challenging. It's just hard to get to all these different little locations out in the middle of nowhere. So there's a lot of challenges there, but the communities themselves, like I was saying, all the little towns, they really do a good job of coming together and creating that community.
You said that just getting places can be tough, and simply because it's so big, but also because roads tend to become difficult to use if they're not maintained properly. And I
Right.
know that that's something that you've taken upon yourself to try to allow people to access neat places. There are a couple examples I wanted you to touch on that have gone from impassable to passable recently. What are those?
Yeah, two of the great things I've been working with the Parks and Rec Commissioner, Pat McGreevy in District 2, is Ponderosa Road, which is a river access road from just out between Moke Hill and Glencoe off of Highway 26. You could access the McCollum River. I used to go down there all the time as a kid. Go swimming. It was amazing. It is an amazing swimming hole, especially if it rains again and all that. But and it has a historic bridge that used to be passable. The road actually, even when I was a kid, the road was passable all the way to Amador County. The Amador County one is now completely closed off. The private property owner, it reverted back to them. But on Calaveras side, we still have access there, but it was not maintained for years, and so we were able to get grant funding to fund through the Upper McCollum River Watershed Authority process. I'm part of that authority through the supervisors. We were able to get a grant that will pay for the maintenance of that road, and in fact, keep it open even after the winter storms. And previously, to me coming on board, the road was graded. And now you can actually drive down to the river.
In a Camry.
In a Camry. So I encourage you to go check it out. Because one of the things I say is that we used to have all these great recreational access points to our rivers, to our forests, to our lakes. Even when I was a kid, a lot of them are gone. Essentially, we've given these places, these amazing places, to the criminals. And I find that so wrong.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, if I recall, I went down in a four-wheel drive about halfway down Ponderosa Road, and Pat McGreevy took me out on a trail he was hacking out of the side hill, which I think was maybe going to be part of Coast to Crest.
Right. Yeah.
Are you aware, is that still happening? Or?
Yeah. Yep. We're still working on the Coast to Crest Trail. We have little bits of it carved out, and we also have part of the Shads Reservoir up outside of West Point. We opened up that access road again. So now, if you're handicapped or if you're older and you can't walk the mile in, you can now drive up there and access that old fishing hole too. So it's all about opening up access to one of the reasons we live here. And that is the beautifulness of it.
That's right. Transitioning over to
Excuse me.
Board meetings, how often does the Board of Supervisors meet?
Well, we meet twice a month, and then we have every quarter a night meeting, once a quarter. So,
And
then we do
meeting-
special meetings. Like this last month, we had that special meeting on a Tuesday, but it was not official. It was a board workshop.
Sure.
So we'll do that occasionally. We'll do those too.
At the meeting that happened not long ago, there wasn't a ton on the agenda, but one thing that needed to happen was the appointment of a new board chair.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted you to walk me through traditionally how that process works, and then what happened that was different from that traditional
Right.
precedent this time.
Yeah. Well, this is our, tradition. I'm not sure too much of as far as the internal board policies, because this is my first year of being on there, and I didn't really spend a huge amount of time studying the past traditions of the board. And so, but I guess from when people tell me is that traditionally you have a vice chair and a chair, and then the chairmanship rotates to the vice chair, and then another, that moves on through the districts like that. But I guess that doesn't always happen that way. It depends on the election cycle. Like when I first came on board, theoretically it was supposed to be District 2's turn to be board chair. So I was in line when I first got elected to be board chair. But to be honest, I didn't want to be board chair when I first got elected.
That'd be a tall order.
Because it would be challenging to know all the different nuances of chairing a position you just got there on. So I was like, oh yeah, well, go ahead, Marita. You've been here for 30 years. You can probably handle, so. And she's done a great job. And so this year we picked Debbie to do it, similar, I think, to like Marita. As far as like Debbie has the experience through Angels Camp City Council, and this year is probably going to be even tougher than last year as far as the budget. You have the general plan coming up, so you're going to have some really dicey issues. You're going to want somebody like Debbie there that's pretty even-keeled and has some more experience chairing.
The vote for that was 3-1-1. So you, Cliff Edson, and Debbie Pawnee voted in favor of Debbie being chair. Marita voted no, and Darren Spelman abstained.
Right.
And Marita gave the reason for why she voted no on that particular motion because she felt as though the vice chair usually would become chair, and
Marita likes things to kind of be. She likes things to go the way they were before.
Sure.
So that's she doesn't like things to be out of order like that. Where you just as I think as a board you have to make the decision based on what the realities are you're going to be facing. Because mainly my job is like I say, like being a moderate politically, especially in a local office like this. It's not to make anything messier than it needs to be. I don't always do that, but that's what I try to do is just try to keep the county business moving smoothly, and that's why I went with Debbie. Is I thought this next year is going to be tough, and it's a lot smoother to have Debbie there.
Well, I guess the question is. Marita had said the only time she's ever in her long history seen it not go to the vice chair is if the board felt as though that person didn't have the county's best interest in mind. So I guess my question for you is, do you not think Darren Spelman has the best interest of the county in mind?
No, I didn't say that. That was Marita saying those words.
Then why didn't you appoint or be part of appointing Darren Spelman as vice chair,
right,
as chairman?
Well, yeah, just as I explained, is that I think Debbie will do a better job. This is going to be a difficult year, and she has the experience as a chair for, I think she was on the council for 8 years, I believe, and so she has more experience going forward than any of us, the rest of us do, and she's even-keeled, and that's why I went with Debbie. Do
you think Darren would take that as a slap in the face?
I talked to Darren. I said, "Hey, there's nothing against you. I like you. I just think that where we're at in the county right now, and I explained this basic same things to him that I just did to you, and I just think that was the best thing to do for the county."
How do you take it?
He was pretty good about it. Yeah, okay. I mean, it's very mature. And I don't think he was happy, but if it, that's just the way. That's the way it goes out. And if he wins this next election, then it's going to be he'll have more experience, and
now
we'll revisit it.
What's the difference between pay for a board chair versus regular board member?
That's a good question. I think it's about 10,000, but it could be 12,000, like Darren said. I'm not sure exactly what the exact figure is.
But there are certain additional responsibilities.
I just say 10,000, but it might be 12,000. I'm not sure.
Okay. Yeah. Does the vice
chair doesn't make anything more?
They don't make anything more. Okay.
No, because it doesn't. The vice chair only doesn't really do that much. It's the chair that has the extra duties, helping to set the agenda up, and just dealing with any urgent matters that come up where the CAO needs somebody to step in. So,
sure.
And then running the meeting, I think is worth. Can be, if it's a contentious meeting, you need somebody there who's going to be. Level-headed to deal with people getting in your face and trying to push your buttons, because that's what people, some people enjoy that as a recreational sport.
You said it's going to be a difficult year, and it absolutely will be. And the reason is that according to CAO projections, the county is facing anywhere from a $4 million to a $7 million shortfall in terms of the budget. How did we get here?
Yeah.
How is the county facing this?
It's all Marita's fault. It's no. That's how we got here is probably a bigger question than I can answer. It takes decades to get to the point where we're at. But I think mostly what happened, I think I can sum it up like this: is during the boom, we geared up as many counties and cities did across the nation. That the building boom was never going to end. We were just going to keep growing. We're going to have a general plan that takes on all this growth, and we're going to need a county the size of Alameda County to as far as staff and structure to deal with this type of growth. And we planned accordingly, but we all know what happened. The bubble burst, and we went back into the 80s, essentially. Instead of growing, we're shrinking in population. And so I think that's really the core of the problem, was the recession, and it just takes a long time for a small rural county to dig out of it. And so that's part of the transition that we're having.
The board decided to spend a significant amount of one-time funds in order to balance last year's budget, and there's been quite a bit of criticism about that decision. Do you feel as though that was the right decision, especially looking at having to do the same thing this year in order to balance the budget?
Right. Well, I mean, when you first come in, like I was in the beginning of the conversation, it was a new board. We, all three of us, just got here as far as board. It was a new CAO that she didn't come in until, the budget process had already been going forward. So there's really no time for any new ideas to happen. It was just the status quo was what was going to happen.
Well, the CAO recommended not spending those, and you went against her.
Well, there's a lot of the stuff that we spent is actually especially if you consider the real rub was the additional sheriff deputies positions. Now, that's where people got the most upset.
Sure.
And so what happened is that we actually took those 4 new deputy positions and we funded those through general fund money. We moved out of public works, so that was not one-time funding. That was a stream of money that comes in every year, and we use that money instead of public works. We use it for the sheriff's deputy. So that was a decision. Now, long term, if you keep those positions, you're going to have more cost. But it's not like we just took that money out of thin air. We transferred it from a different general fund department to the sheriff's department. And so, and then a lot of the other money was carryover money. So there's money that we had budgeted, or past boards had budgeted, that was not spent at all. It was money that was still there. It wasn't, it was one-time money, but it was one-time money that was more than just one-time money. So it's not as, it sounds worse than it really was at that point. But that's not to diminish the fact that we do have a problem. But we need to be creative about how we solve that problem, and we have to, and that's what I like about our new CAO is that she is, she's trying to be as creative as possible, as flexible as possible, coming up with new ideas to eliminate, reduce basically what we're trying to do.
We're like right on the edge. I know you're just getting into it. Time flies by. You
don't want me to keep talking about the budget?
Well, I do want you to, but we're right at the edge. So
okay.
How can people contact you to find out more?
Sure, give me a call, 304-3729.
Okay. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
All right, Joel, thanks a lot.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope you join me next time.